So where I can, I want to try to draw your attention to comparable religious texts that might help you think about the biblical text. I'm not saying that that's not on the table. I think it could be, but I think maybe also helps you think through patient care for those who are outside of your own tradition. Buddhism is not my tradition, but I think in this particular context, there's a bit of connectivity with Buddhism. So one of the central ideas in Buddhism is that life is suffering, that life has suffering. And this is the first of the Four Noble Truths. As the Buddha gets outside of himself, Siddhartha Gautama, whom we know as the Buddha, gets outside of himself and realizes that his life that has been so protected by his father and mother, the king and queen, he realizes, hey, this is not the life that everybody lives, and there's suffering in the world. This is fundamentally important for his kind of self-understanding and religious understanding, this concentration on suffering. When the Magnificat talks about the raising up of the lowly and the putting down of the mighty and God's strong right arm and his mighty deeds and all of that, it's this awareness that there's some suffering that happens in life. And I think there's a point of connectivity there. I think given the jobs that you do, I think you are probably much more connected to the ever-present reality of suffering that some of us that sit in an office and deal with books and reports and faculty meetings every day. So I think there's something there that I would encourage you to just be mindful of, and it may be helpful for your patient care as well. One of the other things that I think is helpful in this regard is the issue of mindfulness. So I said, maybe this would be helpful to be mindful of. So mindfulness is an important concept in Buddhism. I think it actually translates pretty well to all religious experiences. Certainly, I think it translates well to the Christian tradition. But sometimes we just go through the motions of things, and being mindful is being present in the moment. So the compassion part that we talked about in a couple of the earlier videos is about being mindful, right? It's about seeing and then suffering with. If I don't see the other, if I don't see the suffering, I cannot suffer with them. Mindfulness awakens ourselves, awakens our minds to what's really going on in the world. And Mary here, her mind is awakened, and then she responds to what's going on based on that awareness. Mindfulness of suffering, even in a very, very busy kind of environment that you all work in, may allow you to slow down just enough to make a difference in that patient's life, or in the life of a colleague, and in the life of another nurse, of the life of a nursing assistant, someone who works in administrative duties there at the desk or at the unit. That mindfulness allows us to see the other and see what they're going through, and then exercise that kind of servant leadership that we talked about the last time. I'm not an expert in Buddhism. Some would say I'm not an expert in Christianity either, but I just saw a little bit of a connection there, so I thought, well, let's introduce that and see what you think. So we'll come back in the next episode here and talk a little bit more about justice and the formative basis of justice on ethics.